Oh, I hope you're ready for another double dose of goodness. First, we kick things off with Jake's Take, the ultimate Bassmaster behind-the-scenes show with Bassmaster videographer Jake Latendresse. But that's not all. Then we are joined by a tournament fishing trailblazer, Alfred Williams. Recently got inducted in the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, but this week, both of them are joining me here on...
I'm Bob Cobb from the Bassmaster. Welcome to Mercer.
Welcome one, welcome all, friends, family, freeloaders, fishing freaks, and of course my humpers. Happy hump day to all of you. Welcome into the Awkwardly Honest Fishing Podcast that goes with my last name, which is Mercer. This is the 181st edition of the Mercer Podcast, and I hope wherever you're watching or listening throughout the world, life is treating you well. And if it's not, hopefully this next little bit can be a distraction from some of the real problems. Because let's be honest, there is some real problems. And you don't have to look very far on social media to come across some devastating images and realities of the hurricane that hit last week. I feel so bad for all of those people dealing with so much, obviously Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, so many places devastated by that storm. And it is so wide-reaching and it's impacted so many people. All I can do is that this is a moment for us as people to come together and help where you can. I mean, I'm not about to say this is where you should donate, that's where you should donate. But as long as you're doing something, whatever that is, I mean, nobody's to judge. You do something to help them. Because, boy, it is, there's areas that literally have disappeared off the face of the earth. I mean, they've been wiped out. There's people missing still. It's just... it's very, very sad, very scary. I know that's not what this show is generally about, but it'd just be ridiculous of me to have connection to you guys and not say something. So please, wherever you are, however you can help, please help these people, because that's the power of mankind. That's when the world shows its best, sadly, is a lot of times at its worst. Help those people where you can. My thoughts and prayers go out to everybody suffering with that. And hopefully this next little while can be a distraction from some real problems. With all that going on, last week was a big week. We had the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame induction. Congratulations to all the Hall of Fame inductees, all very worthy. And it was a fun celebration. I mean, the cool thing about that event is it's, the fishing world has competition, sure, between leagues, between brands, but it is kind of, it's one of those few events throughout the year where everybody kind of lays their sword down and we're here for the betterment of the sport. And I can gladly say that was truly a celebration of sport. Great inductees. So congratulations to all of you. We got a fun show here this week. First joined by Jake Latendresse. He's going to talk about everything college bass because he was on the back deck of the boat when somebody became a Bassmaster Classic qualifier. He's going to give us a skinny on that. Then we're going to be joined by an amazing man that I think one of the best things that came out of Bass Fishing Hall of Fame week was my opportunity to get closer to him. I had Alfred Williams on Bass Live a few years ago when we were in Jackson, Mississippi. But he is a true tournament trailblazer, an amazing man, and truly the feel-good story of the inductions. I listened to multiple interviews where people said, "William, what was your highlight?" And they're like, getting to meet Alfred. I mean, he's the frog father. he was the guy who put the skirt on a frog. Like, I mean, it's kind of funny because over the last few years, there's been companies coming out with frogs that don't have skirts anymore. They have legs. They started with legs. Alfred cut the legs off and put a skirt in it. So, an amazing conversation. Let's jump right into it. Thank you for watching this. And let's kick things off with Jake's Take. Jake's Take is back in your life. Jake, what's up?
Dude, I'm just so glad to be back, even during the off season. I mean, I think about stuff all the time. Like, I wonder if David would want to talk about this on his show.
Well, hey, reach out. You know how to get me. I mean, you're
It's
welcome.
true. It's
You're
true.
welcome always.
It's true. I'll be honest with you. I've intentionally not bugged you because there's been so much going on over the past 2 weeks that I haven't I've intentionally not texted you or called you because I knew you were so busy.
You're the only one.
Exactly. That's why I did it.
Your texts or calls would be much more. I mean, you'd put me in a good mental place. But no, I mean, dude, you know, you're always welcome here. And on my texts or phone calls socially. But this isn't totally socially because you happen to pull another victory. Just when we think nothing else is going on, the college world has their big event, and you happen to be the camera guy at that event. Where was the event, and what event was it?
Okay. They changed the name of the event. I think it used to be the Bassmaster College Bracket National Championship or
The
something
year
like
it
that.
changes.
Now, yeah, in the fall as the leaves change. Now it's called the Bassmaster College Classic Bracket because the winner of this bracket goes to the Bassmaster Classic for 2025, and they
I,
always have.
I thought it always was the classic bracket.
I always thought it was. I just thought it was a national. The
No, there's
college.
the national championship that they have,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And then the brackets removed from that.
Isn't
I
it?
don't know.
It's called the Classic Bracket.
I thought it was. I don't know. I
Maybe
don't
it
know.
was.
I
Maybe
mean,
maybe I'm just off.
you're
I've
really.
covered this thing 3 years in a row now, and I love it. I love covering this event, and they always choose. The organizers choose a lake late in the the on the calendar towards the event because they don't want anyone to have any information. They try to choose a lake that probably no one has fished, or if they have very little recent information from. And like last year, it was Lake Milford in Kansas. This year, it was Timms Ford Lake in Winchester, Tennessee. And
God bless
ironically,
Winchester. I
oh
love
my
Winchester,
goodness,
Tennessee.
me too.
Home of
I
Phoenix
actually
boats.
Phoenix boats, and I did run into Gary Klaus at the weigh-ins. He and I had a good time, and we were gonna go to dinner, but I just ran out of time, man. Just so busy. But Winchester is 20 minutes from where I went to high school in Tennessee. So it's kind of my old stomping grounds, but ironically, I had never one time been to Timms Ford Lake in all the years I've spent in that area. Never got on that lake until Saturday, and it
It,
is beautiful.
yeah, it seemed to fish. I mean, you go every Tuesday night. The Phoenix guys have a tournament. I think.
Do they really?
I think it's Tuesday nights. I'll find out if any of them watch this podcast because they'll let me know.
Well, I have a bunch of waypoints if any of you guys need any.
It seemed to fish well.
It did. It really, really did. And I was shocked because Timms Ford, one of the reasons I've never been there is because Timms Ford has always been known as a recreational lake, a big party lake, pontoons all over the place. And it's actually not overly crowded. Like it really reminds me a lot of Lake Hartwell without all the houses. And there are clusters of homes in certain coves, and there's boat docks in certain coves, but really, I'm telling you, it's not a big lake, but you can get away from people in a hurry on Tim's Ford. It is absolutely freaking beautiful, and it's full. I never really knew that, how many fish there were in that lake, and they're not giants. I mean, I think the biggest bass of the entire tournament was a 4.5 pound largemouth. Um, but there's tons and tons of 2.5 to 3.5 pound and some 4 pound smallmouth in there that are um, very aggressive. They're extremely aggressive fish.
Yeah, a lot of top water action.
Tons. They were obviously schooling this time of year, and I was with Andrew Blanton from Lander University on day 2 and day 3, and he was the national. He and his teammate were they were the winners of the national championship tournament, and then on day 4 I was with Dylan Akins, who ended up winning the bracket, which we'll get to. So I got to be in the, these guys were going head to head, especially in the elimination rounds. And I just had a blast watching them. They were, they fished a little bit differently. Andrew was fishing with a buzz bait and a horny toad, soft plastic on it. And what else was he? Oh, and he was throwing a spook quite a bit. And then Dylan was really throwing. He was throwing a popper, a big shad popper, and it worked. They had two different techniques. One was on the bank, and the other was out in the open water, sort of offshore a bit and fishing points. And again, it reminded me a lot of really when Brandon Cobb won Lake Fork and when Jason Christie, Andrew Blanton fished Tim's Ford very, very similarly to how Jason Christie fished Lake Hartwell when he won the Classic there. Very similar patterns.
Very cool. Very
Hmm.
cool. So you were with the ballers from this year because also your eventual champion is also angler team of the year, right? Him and his partner Chase. I wrote this down because I don't want his parents yelling at me. Chase Carey earned team of the year. So you were with the angler that won the national championship. You were
Hmm.
with the angler that was half of the team of the year. That is our eventual bracket championship. Why did and I'll ask you because that doesn't happen often. Sometimes we have a bracket winner that isn't there.
Hmm.
With them winning as much as they've won, did they stand out to you? Like, are these guys you think we'll see in the future?
Oh yeah, like Easton Fothergill, that he went head to head in the championship last year against Tucker Smith, and you know those guys, they're legitimate bass fishermen. I mean, they know,
Clearly,
yeah, clearly they know how to use
the
their
opens are having a vote, and they would like to send Easton Fothergill back to collegiate
yeah,
competition.
exactly. And what a class act he was yesterday. He did a selfie little
Yeah,
video clip to congratulate Dylan on winning the bracket and told him how much this changed his life and how much inspiration it was to him for him to win it, but how much inspiration he became to other anglers. I love this level of fishing. The crowds aren't there. Basically the notoriety probably isn't, it isn't there. But I likened it yesterday on one of the posts that I made on Instagram about how their eagerness and their hunger is very similar in an analogy from college football to the NFL as it would be from college anglers all the way up to the elite anglers. There is a distinguishable difference in their eagerness, just their commitment, the things that they don't know, the things that they're learning and trying to understand. But after 3 or 4 years, I've done the college national championships for many years now, but I've only done the bracket, I think maybe the last 3 years, and you can tell the guys in the bracket are getting better. They're more like I told Dylan Akins yesterday after he won. I went up to him, when he was getting photos with during the photo shoot and all that stuff, and I just said, everything you did, Dylan, was very professional. Everything you did, like he was in a rotation. He never got flustered. He never spun out, and it wasn't going his way. He was the most consistent angler throughout the 4 days of the tournament. He caught like 16 and some change day one, 16 and some change day two, 16 and some change on day three. And on day 4, his fish were biting, but they were just nipping at his bait, and he couldn't figure out how to get hooked up. So, and it was slower. There was no wind. It was super calm, and the fish just weren't as aggressive. So he stayed. He just kept his head down, stayed in his rotation, was trying to find some signs here and there to give him some sort of a direction as to what pattern, if he needed to change or what was going to happen. And then at about check-in was at 2:30, so I would say about 12:30, the wind kicked up a little bit, and he just stayed in his rotation, and all of a sudden he started catching 2.5 and 3 pound smallmouth, and ended up with, I think, 14. Think he weighed 1411 to win the tournament, and his competitor in the head-to-head final two weighed like 12.7 or something like that. So, and they had no idea what each other had. We pulled up to the bridge out in front of the check-in dock with about 30 minutes to go, and his competitor, I knew he only had 4 fish for like 8.5 pounds, and I knew that because I was checking Bass Track. So we pulled up to this cove right by the bridge, and the other guy um, came out from under the bridge and literally caught 2 fish like as soon as we pulled up, and he stuck him in his live well and didn't cull. He culled the second one, but he didn't cull the first one. So I think Dylan knew at that point he only had 4 fish because he just threw it in his live well and didn't cull. So when he threw the second one in and culled it, I feel like I could tell Dylan got a little bit nervous. He felt good about his bag, but I think he got a little bit nervous when he saw him cull that next fish, going, "Wow, he must, he just culled up. I wonder what he's got." And he didn't. He was 2 pounds under what he had been catching consistently for 3 days. So, like you always want when everyone comes to the weigh-in stage on the final day, you want no one to know anything so that that element of surprise really catches them off guard.
But
And
no, just to be clear, I mean, I don't
okay,
want nobody to know anything. I just like not everyone to know everything.
okay, fair enough, fair enough. You guys can sort that out yourselves, whatever that means. But no one knew who was going to win this tournament. I thought he had over seven. I thought he had a little bit more than he did, but um, I wasn't sure either. So anyway, it was a good tournament. He was a very deserving winner. He was very professional, very knowledgeable. He knew exactly his home lake is Lake Lanier. He goes to Emmanuel University, which is down in Georgia, South Georgia, and his home lake is Lake Lanier. And so this fall pattern set up exactly like the spots and the largemouth do in Lake Lanier for him. So he felt really comfortable and really confident in what he was doing every day.
Very cool. None of those. I mean, you compared it to college football. I guess there's none of those NIL deals in
Not
fishing.
yet. Not yet. I don't know, man, because Dylan, he was having trolling motor issues on day 3, and Glenn said something on stage while we were live about um, uh, him needing a trolling motor, and the next day, what's his name from Humminbird? Bill
Bill Carson.
Bill Carson. I think Carson came through and saw it that night or the next day and came through and got Dylan a new trolling motor. So there you go.
That's
That's the
awesome.
very first NIL deal in college bass fishing.
Yeah, and they're available to you. All you got to be doing is going to the Bassmaster Classic.
And just win, baby. Just win.
No, Bill Carson's an awesome dude. Um, I think he had been helping them before. Bill is a big supporter of all the collegiate fishing. And if you ask me, everybody makes a big deal out of forward facing sonar, and it is a big deal. But what you're watching, what you're talking about, is one of the biggest deals in our. It's the reason that these anglers are so tested. They're so well rounded.
Exactly.
Who's going to be? Let's just play. Let's look into the future. Who's going to be? Who's going to be the Neon Dion? Who's going to be the dude who retires from the Elite Series eventually, or maybe is already retired, and like goes to a school and they just start sending money, and then
I mean, it's
Swindle?
this is funny to some people, but it's not really out of the realm of realities because Gary Klaus and I were leaned up against one of the Toyota trucks at the weigh-ins yesterday, and we were talking about this exact thing where these guys are on some of these guys are on full scholarships, 60, $70,000 scholarships to get an education from bass fishing.
It's
And
wild.
the fact that that exists is enormous to us and our future and what we do and the future of professional bass fishing, all the brands and companies that exist. It's a big part of it. And as we cover these events like the college bracket, we had a lot of people watching yesterday, and because they were getting a lot of clicks on Bass Nation social media, and I was getting followers just from covering the guys that I had. And I'll be honest with you, I really never heard of most of them, not because they're not out there in the college world. It's just not something that I keep up with like I do, say, college football. But these guys are really good. And Gary Klaus and I were talking about this yesterday, how good they are. And they're not just front facing sonar anglers. I mean, let's look at Andrew Blanton and Dylan Akins the day before yesterday. They're fishing topwater. They're both fishing topwater, but Andrew's up on the bank. He never even used his front-facing sonar. He did go out when during the middle of the day and went out into these deep creek channels at the mouths of these in these coves, and he did pick up some cullfish using front-facing sonar and sonar minnows, Demiki rigs, but that wasn't his primary pattern. And then you take what Dylan Akins was doing, he was actually using his front facing sonar to find the fish that were up in the he was in 40 feet of water most of the 35 to 40 feet of water most of the time, and he was looking in the top 10 feet of the water column with his front facing sonar and then catching them on top water. And I always wondered, when they were doing that 2 years ago on Champlain, when Cody Huff and Hamner and all those guys were out there, if those fish, I mean, he would see a fish 12 feet down. The water was clear enough in Tim's Ford, and he would throw a freaking popper out there on top, and that fish would come up like a bottle
Oh
rocket and
yeah.
smash it. I mean, I think it's badass.
Well, there's some who don't.
I know, and I'm sure I'll get
Oh, they'll let you know. They will
ridiculed for that.
let you know.
We
it,
live in a world of ridicule.
uh, it does seem that way. It does seem that way. I mean, it's no matter what. Well, let's not get into that.
Yeah, yeah. That's a whole different direction. But
So, what you're saying is the future is strong. These anglers are very good.
yeah, you've got Easton Fothergill and what he just did in the opens. I mean, he just came out of freaking college, dude. He won the bracket last year, fished the classic, took
A month.
advantage.
He won the bracket a month after having brain surgery.
Right, yeah, let's just get that straight.
And then you're like, oh, wow, great story around this kid. He makes the classic. Seems very put together, but we'll see if we see you again. He wins 2 opens this freaking year. He's definitely, I mean, I don't know mathematically. There's 1 open left. He's got to be in the, he's going to the Elite Series
He's
next
like in
year.
third. I think he's third. He's going in to be in the elites next year, unless I don't know what the numbers look like, and I don't know what could prevent him from that. But and there's a 99.9% chance he's going to be in the elites last year, and he won the college classic bracket last year.
Wow.
And that's how this can change your life, and that's what he was talking about. And and he's a great kid. These guys are very, nowadays, when we were growing up, we didn't have, phone cameras in our faces all the time. We weren't constantly doing social media plugs. We weren't, I remember, getting nervous in front of a camera, not knowing what to say. Nowadays, these guys are already so used to it. It doesn't matter if it's a giant red digital cinema camera or an iPhone 12. They're used to being in front of a camera and they know what to say. They don't get nervous around the media anymore. I mean, Dylan was just as calm as and cool as a cucumber yesterday all day long. And he had opportunities to get flustered and spin out at times, and he just never did. And so, my shout out to all these young guys, even down to the high level high school kids. You guys are doing a great job. You're the future of our sport. I know you probably catch a lot of crap and ridicule from some people, but just keep working hard and doing what you're doing. And I'm so impressed every time I go cover one of these events. I'm so impressed with these kids.
Who's ridiculing them?
I don't know, people on social media.
Well, you really are in a. I mean, you normally bring this show up, but you are. It turns out
I'll tell you what's up, homeboy.
Tennessee. Yeah, they're
They're
they're pretty
up.
good. They're pretty
Hmm.
good. Very good. I mean, you think you're going to win it all this year?
I don't. That I
It's very early to
you
be.
know who predicted that the other day? Um, Somebody on ESPN. No, Colin Cowherd predicted Tennessee to win the national championship. I'm like, well, this is way too early. Tennessee they need to lose a really big game before they understand how to win that really big game. And I think that's where they are right now. I think they're very good. They have a freshman quarterback who is extreme. Like he is like um he's extremely talented, but I don't think he's ready for that yet. He's just a freshman. He
But there's
reminds me
time.
of Vince Young. You remember Vince Young from
Yeah.
Texas?
Heck
He's
yeah.
he's very similar in his his um, his football play as Vince Young was.
So, will you guys? I mean, in the past, a freshman, you're like, oh, we got him for a long time, but that's
No,
not
we
the
know
case
we
anymore, right? Like,
he redshirted last year and studied under Joe Milton, and we think he'll be gone. He'll have to play this year and next year because there's that 3-year rule for the NFL. But we already have two other 5-star quarterbacks behind him that we signed because, and I mean, why would another 5-star quarterback come to a school that has a freshman 5-star quarterback? Unless he's that competitive, he knows that that guy's probably going to go NFL. So they redshirt this year. They have one more year to play under him, and then they move up. It's just a plug and play now. The NIL has changed a lot of things, and a lot of those guys are making more money in the NIL right now in college than they might in the NFL.
really?
Nico Iamaleava, the quarterback for Tennessee, they paid him $8 million. How much you think they paid Arch Manning to go to Texas? How much like they're paying these kids uh, these high profile. What about Ryan Williams, that freaking 17-year-old wide receiver for Alabama that had 6 catches for 177 yards and what 4 touchdowns against Georgia? How much money you think he's going to get next year?
I wonder if now this is no statistics behind this, but watching the NFL, it does feel like the last number of years there's an abnormal amount of, and I mean I get it. Tom Brady was a 6th round draft pick too,
Yeah.
but you look at the Chiefs running back Isaiah Pacheco. You look at Brock Purdy. There's a lot of later draft round picks, and there's a lot of high draft picks that are not becoming what they were predicted to be. I wonder if that's affecting it. Like when you think about it, like if you've already made 15 million by the time you've got to the NFL, you're probably not quite as hungry as you might have been. And that being said, I agree that the kids, I mean, somebody's been getting rich for a long time on those kids.
Yeah.
um,
Exactly.
it's a weird
Exactly.
situation.
Well, I listen in my driving time and even on my phone now when I'm traveling by air. I listen to Sirius XM a lot, lots of sports radio, and lots of analysts are predicting that the NIL is actually going to keep some people in college longer because they're making a lot of money in college and they get that time to season
Oh
themselves
yeah.
as a college player before they go to the NFL, because as many young low draft picks as you can cite right now that are doing well in the NFL, you can look at some of these guys are getting thrown to the wolves immediately out of college, um, that that aren't doing well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think, what was the quarterback's name for Alabama that plays for the Carolina Panthers now? Um,
Oh,
God, he won the Heisman Trophy. How could I forget him?
I don't know. You're supposed to know that stuff.
He's like, he got benched, and they're
Yeah.
paying him a buttload of money. They backed
What's
the
his
truck up his.
freaking name? I can't believe.
Gosh dang it!
I mean, they traded the Bears for the pick.
I know. I was thinking of
Doesn't
Jaden
matter.
Daniels because he's doing well. He was the quarterback for LSU, and he is lighting it up.
Hey, you know who deserves a little love, because people like to hammer on sports broadcasters of any sort, and you should never do that. But Kurt Herbstreit, when all the people talking about Caleb Williams and all the different drafts, I mean, I remember him. He kept saying, Jaden Daniels, this is the quarter, like this is the guy. And there wasn't a lot of people saying that. And
Right.
clearly,
He's
he
throwing
knows a thing or
dimes.
two about football.
S-
We've talked
He,
a lot about, we're pissing people off by the second here. I don't watch
it's
that.
football season. It's football season. This off season for bass fishing, and even I went to the Tennessee Oklahoma game
You
in
did,
Norman.
yeah.
Yeah, I took my son Walker. We went fishing on Lake Canton, right outside of Norman, the day before, and then we went to the game, and we went down to game day, and it was so crowded. I wanted to get Walker up to the front of the, near the stage,
Punch Pat
to watch.
McAfee in the mouth.
Oh, dude, hey, that guy. I know how you feel about him,
Oh,
and
I love that
I
dude.
love that guy.
He's
He has
incredible.
done so much for college football and game day now. He has reinvigorated that whole scene, man. And the way he trolls people now, when he trolled Oklahoma and got them to say Boomer Sooner, and he
Yeah.
goes, "Not today, Rocky Top, you'll always be."
Yeah, no,
Uh,
he's a master. I mean, dude, he's literally a professional wrestler that has been let loose in the sports world. Like, obviously, he was a kicker, but dude, he was a soccer player. Then said one day, "I'm going to be a kicker." Was an impact player as a punter. Not a
for Texas A&M, right?
no, he played for Wisconsin. No, West Virginia.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Mountaineers.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
right.
and then he went and played, obviously, for the
The NFL.
yeah, for the Colts with Peyton Manning and Andrew Luck, and I mean, anyways. So he's been success. I mean, people like him make me pissed off because he's found success in so many different levels of his life. I mean,
Everything he does turns to gold.
it really does. I mean,
It's all about his personality.
and he can make his schedule like 6 months a year. He's like, I'll do WWE for 6 months. I'll be their commentator. But when football season starts, I'm out of that. I'm going back to do football. And he'll come back. Like everybody else is like, if you leave here, you're never coming back. It's always
He,
welcome back.
he is amazing.
In my opinion, anyways.
He's an amazingly talented individual. That is a fact.
Speaking of amazingly talented, this past week, I want to give you a quick second to talk about it because I know afterwards you'll text me and say, I didn't get a chance to say anything. Two of the people that that we work with got inducted into the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. I mean, everyone that got inducted in, kudos to all of you. But Mark Zona and Mike McInnes, incredible. It was really cool to see them and see how that moment affects them. And it was super cool to a lot of the people that were at the induction. I mean, Carl Jacobson came for the first time. It's cool to see a lot of younger. Logan Parks was there. Brandon Polnick's always there. It's cool to see a lot of the younger anglers showing respect to the older anglers by being there. It's a phenomenal event.
Yeah, I mean, obviously everyone knows who Zona is and how talented. Speaking of the Pat McAfees of the world, Mark Zona and his personality and what he brought to the table for so many years for Bassmaster and Bassmaster Live, and he was just such an impact on the attitude and the characterization of bass fishing as it aired. And I want to personally thank Zona on air like this right now, because as he has done for so many people, he's helped so many people with job placements, with positioning. I mean, with positioning, with connectivity to other people in the industry, to put two people together that he knew would make a great formula and all that. So, thank you so much, Mark Zona. And you are well deserved, obviously, to be in the Hall of Fame. You have your own category, and a lot of people don't know who Mike McInnes is. The viewers, especially probably the younger ones, but Mike McInnes is obviously, or not obviously, but he is the son of Jerry McInnes and JM Associates, which JM is Jerry McInnes Associates. He's the one that really was the mastermind behind developing the television broadcast around what Ray Scott's dream was and bringing it to life and all that. But Mike McInnes, who is our head director at JM Associates, he's the guy that really is the brainchild behind live. And when we went live, I don't even remember how many years ago, maybe we started it.
2015.
I was going to say maybe 10 years ago, we started live. We started out with cameras. We had some test cameras that had USB ports on them, and we used phone cards, the Verizon phone cards, to see if we could stream video back to the truck. And Howard Downs and all the technicians back there that know how to piece all of the little jigsaw puzzles pieces together to make that happen. Behind what Mike McInnes was doing, was brainchilding, has brought us to where we are today. All the other networks, Major League Fishing, anything that any other program does live in bass fishing, was based around Bassmaster Live, and what we did, and how how elevating that was to our brand, all the anglers. We got so much more airtime, even during COVID. I'm going to go back 4 years and talk about the COVID year when all the other sports were canceled because we were an outside and outdoor activity. We were handed some very uh, some airtime rates that you couldn't turn down, and we were literally broadcasting our live shows on the lakes during COVID for 8 hours a day, and we elevated our viewership because there were no other sports airing other than reruns. We went from like whatever it was, 300,000 viewers online to like 12 million viewers on ESPN2 during COVID because everyone was locked down at home. And that really brought us, and just it exploded the entire camera crew. We went from having 4 people to 10 people, and it's just been a remarkable growth spike in Bassmaster television. And so Mike McInnes, he is my boss. He is the guy that I actually, all of us answer to at JM Associates. Thank you for everything that you've done. Congratulations. It's well deserved. And you're an amazing human being and a remarkable creative and mastermind behind what you've done. Thank you.
He truly is. And in Mike McInnes fashion, his entire speech was just thanking other people.
Yeah.
Which I mean that's what you expect from Mike McInnes. But amazing. The amount of people that he thanked was really cool. The whole Hall of Fame was very, very cool. It was a fun week. When do
I'm
I see
going
you
next year.
next? You
I'm
said
going
that
next year.
last year.
I did. I totally forgot about it.
um, it when do I see you next? Do I get to see you at Redfish? Are you doing Redfish Cup this
No,
year?
no, I was going to do the Hartwell Open too, but my daughter qualified for a cross country championship, so I can't miss that.
Your
And
kids, your kids are just put on
Redfish.
earth to piss off over other. I
No,
mean,
I'm gonna
if
have
my
to miss
son's not
Redfish
fighting
Cup.
for the championship, my daughter's competing in a national race. No big deal.
When is Redfish Cup?
I don't know. The end of this month, sometime
Yeah,
October 25th. 24th to 27th, I think rings a bell
Yep.
in Florida.
Yep, in Florida this year.
Yeah.
And again, thinking about Florida and North Carolina and parts of South Carolina, I have friends that are actually still
Tennessee.
stuck in West Tennessee or in East Tennessee. They're still stuck in their towns, the town of Newport, Tennessee, and all those little bitty mountain towns that no one talks about. In Asheville, North Carolina, Black Mountain, prayers go. That was just that is unbelievable what has happened there, and no one expected that because they're off the coast and they're mountain towns, but they got destroyed, and there's still like over 100 people dead, and there's like over 100 still missing in around Asheville, North Carolina. So prayers go out to all those people and all those families.
Yeah, that is so devastating, so tough to see, and it's all I can say is help where you can, folks. I mean, I know my family will do our part, and I wish everybody's would, because, and I'm not going to give you like donate to this because it's so widespread. Just pick somewhere and help where you can, and no amount is too little. These are the moments. There's a lot of crappy moments in mankind. There's a lot of moments where, we were talking earlier about people just chirping online or whatever, but one of the most special things about online is it allows us all to see what's really happening. And sadly, I don't want to see half that stuff because it's so sad. But
It's
please do
hard to
what you
watch.
can to help those people.
hmm If you don't know how, what I've heard too is even if you don't go to church or attend a certain church, if you just go to a church or contact a church, lots and lots of churches across the country, especially in the South, are doing things, organizing rallies, water collections, food collections, money collections, all of those things. Lots of GoFundMe um, uh, uh, platforms out there as well. So you don't have to look far to find what you need to know to be able to help. So certainly do what you can. I know we're going to for sure.
Mullins has been posting quite a bit of stuff about it
hmm
too. I mean, he's kind of
He's
right
pretty
in there.
close.
So
Yep,
check his socials out because he'll keep you updated to the areas that need help. But let's just try help.
for sure.
See, I told you we could make this negative. You tried to bring this thing down with all your people are ridiculing people, but we brought it back up. We're
We
gonna
did.
help.
We did. We
All
did.
right. All right. So you're not at Redfish. You're just
I'll see
watching your
you.
wonderful children excel.
Yes, my son, I will. This is the last thing I'll say about my children. My son Walker has a national level fight similar to the Junior Olympics in Oakland, California, of all places, in November. So he'll be fighting. He's getting ready now for that event. We're probably going to have two preliminary boxing matches between now and then to get him ready for it. And
Is that
then
same kid in it that he fought?
No, this is California. That kid he fought. We're trying to set up a match in Kansas. With that he's from Kansas City, or no, he's from Kansas
Go
City.
Chiefs.
Yeah. So we're trying to set up even sparring matches. His dad and his coach, they're really good people, and we've collaborated with them. So we're not enemies, and we're trying to get them together so they can learn from each other too. So yeah, all good, man.
That's a what
I'm gonna miss the Redfish Cup. I'm gonna miss all you guys at the Hartwell Open, and good luck to all those guys that are right on the bubble of EQ qualifier. Good luck to everyone, and whoever makes it, we'll see you next year at the Bassmaster Elite events, the first one.
Let's do it. Let's do it. This has been, we set a record. I mean, last week we had the longest show ever. This is the shortest Jake's Take ever. And it's with good reason because I told you I had to be off of here at a certain time because I've always got time for you, Jake. You're one of my favorite humans, but I'm going fishing. So as
Go.
far as fish go, goodbye.
Bye.
Always good stuff with Jake Latendresse. You never know what direction it's going to go in, but it it always goes in a direction, and it's good to hear his voice. It's been a while. From Jake Latendresse, we travel to Jackson, Mississippi, where we hook up with a true tournament trailblazer, the Frog Father, as I call him. There's a lot of pro anglers that hang their hat on the frog. You know, it's become kind of a cool way to catch them. But every one of those will tell you, long before they ever tied on a frog, Alfred Williams tied on a frog. He modified a frog. He owned the frog, basically. He threw it when nobody else would throw it. He is now a Bass Fishing Hall of Famer. He is our next guest on this show, all the way from Jackson, Mississippi, Bass Fishing Hall of Famer, Alfred Williams. Alfred Williams, you are a Bass Fishing Hall of Famer. How does that feel?
Well, it feels great. I mean, to be so honored to be inducted in the Fishing Hall of Fame, Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, it give you a sense of something you've accomplished something. This everybody, you got to figure everybody that fish don't get in the Hall of Fame. So when your name is there with some of the other names that's up there, KVD, Jimmy Houston, it just gives you a sense of accomplishment, But I don't take it lightly. I'm just so thankful to be so, so liked and well, over the years in fishing, it just feel like you've accomplished something.
What was this past week's experience like to go, to be nominated is one thing, to get the phone call, but to actually go through the emotions of, I saw at one point Kevin Van Dam, Mark Zona, Mike Iaconelli, all circled around you, that excited to talk to you. That has to be humbling.
It was. I mean, if you look at that experience, you actually go back to the actual classic itself. Going to the Bassmaster Classic, where you in there with guys that you've read about, heard about. But back then you would hear more than you would see them. But to be there in that setting with those people, and the spotlight is on that event, and you a part of it. I mean, you it was about you. I say about you and the other inductees. So I mean, it was just awesome. I mean, it was unbelievable, awesome. I mean,
Well, I think I speak for the board and everybody that everybody said afterwards, we need Alfred and his family to come back to this event every year, because it really was the amount of support that you had around you was really, you were the feel good story of the inductions. I think if you know what I mean by that.
yeah. Well, my family, I told them, when I got the word that I'd been inducted, we're gonna go for the ceremony and all. And I look at it. I said, look, I know it's a big thing and everything, and I wanted them not to put themselves out. You know what I'm saying? When I said put the out, expenses and so forth and so on. I don't want them to do anything to put themselves in jeopardy of, financially or something. They're trying, but they said they wouldn't have none of that. So I mean, they and everybody that said they was coming, they showed up. I mean, so it really made me feel good. I mean, to see my family there like that supporting me, and then other people that came to support me.
Yeah, it was amazing. Who was the most shocking congratulations? Like, was there one of those moments where you're like, I can't believe so and so is congratulating me?
Oh, it was so many people that came up to me and congratulated me that I mean, I've known of some of them, and some of them I hadn't known or whatever. But just to think of, I don't know, maybe one or two individuals that, and like I said, obviously, we went up to duty, putting on the jacket. Rick Clun gave me a big hug. That's pretty big. Pretty big. Because I saw, you know, Rick Pierce came up to me from Bass Cat. He came up to me and my wife and spoke to us. And it is just so many. I mean, I can't even go back to even come close to thinking all the people that did. I mean, it was just it was just so wonderful. I mean, it's unbelievable, unbelievable.
Well, you did some pretty unbelievable things in your day. But I want to go back, way back. When was the first moment in your life that you knew that bass fishing wasn't just a hobby for you? Like maybe the dream of doing it for a living was a long way away, but when did you realize that your addiction to this little green fish was a lot more than maybe your friends?
Probably 1975. Like I said, I came out of the military in '70, and then we got in a little old boat and everything of some sort, and we went out fishing, and we was fishing for whatever, white perch, brim, catfish, bass, whatever, because I had worms, crickets, minnows, and a plastic worm. So I was trying to catch any and everything. And at that time, like I said, this was 71. They had these bass tournaments. Bass came in here and fished a couple tournaments on Ross, and we see these guys ripping and running around here, and that was the talk then. And then of course I had my little boat and everything, and I would try to go out on the day that they would be on the water and try to see my catch what it would compare to their catch. Like the same amount of fish. I think they would win in 8 or 10 fish or something like that. But I was just trying to see what my weight would look like compared to what their weight was for the day. And then I think that's when, just to see them running around there, on the lake fishing, I wanted to do some of that. I wanted to do that. I no longer wanted to crappie fish, which I still did. And I went to a hardware, it was a hardware store, I guess you want to call it that, because at that time, that's most where you buy your little fishing equipment. And the
Yeah.
guy sold me a 5500C Ambassador and a broomstick for a rod, and gave me an aquaglow worm. An aquaglow worm was made by a company here, and it glowed. It had a little glow to it, and he gave me some of them worms, and I was off to the reservoir. And man, you throw that glow worm out there and boy, them bass, I mean, yeah, they would hit it. And I mean, when you just got your first, I guess your first 1 or 2 trips, making contact with bass. I mean, I didn't want to do anything else. And then, coach, in 75, 70, 76, that's when I fished my first tournament.
Okay.
And again, like I said, that was one of them deals where, we, went to the meeting and all that, but the tournament itself, just the fisherman's tournament, I think we had 200, we had, I don't know, it was right at 300 competitors in our, it was boulder, but two guys to a boat, of course. And like I said, I caught, I think I wound up catching 6 or 7 fish, and I just missed the money, and I was hooked in. I mean, it was over. It was over. I couldn't wait to the next tournament that I could get in. And again, they was only having 3 or 4 tournaments in the spring. It wasn't like every weekend you got a tournament on the lake.
Yeah.
But then it was just about 4, 5 tournaments for the whole spring up until summer. Nobody fishing in the summertime, and I just couldn't wait till the next one. And as soon as the next one come, I put my entry fee in, and I've been and coach, that was in 76, 77 one, and I've been fishing, ever since, really. I mean, tournament fishing, you
What was there any apprehensiveness going into that first tournament?
know. No, not for as think I could, do it. The my thing was, how was I going to be really, accepted overall? I mean, like I said, we went to the banquet, because you always had a banquet before the tournaments back then. And again, like I said, we walked in, and this just like I said in the speech, where the setting was. I mean, everything just got quiet. I mean, it was a shock for people to see two black people coming into an event that normally didn't have anybody black, in associated with the tournament, of course. And we walked in and we sat down and this guy came up and started, talking with us and invited us over to his table. And then after that, everything was smooth, smooth sailing. And I drew an individual. Like I said, he's an ex-pro football player, and he came over, and he was extremely, extremely nice. And goes, me and him are still friends today. And that's the only drawback I had. How was I going to be really, really accepted out on the water? And goes me being with Perry Lee, it went over. Everything went over well because Perry Lee was well known and well liked, around here.
Well, I mean, that's just another example of one of the amazing things about fishing. And I kind of said it at the Hall of Fame is it's for everybody. Like, and
Yeah.
not, it doesn't matter what country you're from, what race you are, what sex you are, but even what physical ability you are. It's
Yeah.
one of the sports that is welcoming. So that's good to hear because, if you had to guess, there'd be a lot of people who would say it would have been a lot tougher on you.
True. But like I said, after that tournament, I mean, I was a known name. I mean, people actually knew who I was then. I mean, like I said, it's not like it is now where, you go to the tackle store, you go to Bass Pro Shop or whatever. Like I said, it was just very few places that you could go and buy some tackle. And like I said, I had this one place I'd go buy my tackle. And even when I just walked in and people actually knew my name, before I even, when get in the store, people knew who I was. And we don't have the media like we got now either. So I mean, it's just from the newspaper, and I guess more word of mouth than anything. But in the newspaper, local newspaper was huge. I mean,
Did you feel as the first black angler to fish a lot of tournaments to make the Bassmaster Classic? Did you ever feel a pressure? That you have to hold yourself to a higher standard, or because you are without saying it. I mean, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on you everywhere you went at that time.
well, believe it or not, no, because I was so confident in my ability, and I was catching fish. I mean, I could literally catch a fish out of your swimming pool. That's where I feel. I mean, that's just my thinking. I mean, I was very confident in my ability, for actual fishing. And
Yeah.
like again, most we was fishing tournaments on the red, and like I said, you don't have 4 or 5 tournaments per season, and as soon as I got over the deal of listening to Doc talk, because I know I could catch them and I knew I had fish located, but then you get up there and Le and Trip Haydad and that bunch, they all talking about. I said we went out this morning, we caught 25 and all that kind of stuff, and you feel like, man, I can't catch that bit of fish, but then come to find out it was just a bunch of hype, is all it was. and I said I was, and then once I cashed the first tournament that I got, and then I can't think of what year or whatever it was, but anyway, it was in the early 70s. I said early 70s, obviously about after 75. But the first one I finished 15th, and all 15th was a little old trophy, just a little small trophy. And man, I was so proud of that. I mean, I didn't finish, well, not in the money, but I finished in whatever you want to call it. So that was the first, I guess we'll just say that's the first cut I made. Okay, let's put it like that. But after that, uh, the first check I got, the Ford companies around the Ford dealerships around here in Louisiana, right around Mississippi, they put on what they call the Ford Trail, East Ford, and East Ford was my Ford dealership here, and they put on this tournament, and I cashed a check in that tournament. I finished 21st, but again, like I said, you go back to the doc talk. You know, if I'd have just not listened to the doc talk, and then what am I to do? I mean, I had a technique of catching fish where nobody else would catch them. Barnett was a new lake. I said new lake, it wasn't that old. And man, we had like shallow stumps and stuff. And man, these guys ain't going up in that kind of stuff. And I got me a bamboo pole. I mean, a big old bamboo pole. And that was my push pole. Man, I pushed my boat back in places that you could not hardly even move to get in. That's the kind of stuff that I would be fishing in. I had nobody to contend with because, I mean, man, I ain't putting my boat up in that stuff. And that's where I kind of made my name known on the reservoir. And so that first tournament, I actually cashed a check. I got a check for $150. And man, and a big old tall trophy. And man, I came home and my wife wasn't at home when I got home. And I set that trophy on the table and laid that check right up against it. And I mean, man, you talking about hyped. I was so hyped. It was just unbelievable. But leading forward, and I would say I won my first tournament in 78, I believe it was. Was it 78? 78, 76 or 78, 77. I won the Have a Heart Classic. And this is the first time I won a tournament. I mean, I placed in several tournaments leading up to this. But that Hearts Classic was the Classic was the tournament that we went in when we said we had the first tournament I fished was a heart tournament. And like I said, this was a couple, 3 years later. And, you know, after the incident where we going and, you know, to the big banquet and all that kind of stuff. But I won the, what they call the Have a Heart Classic. And I kind of won it by accident. They let us go. They let us go that morning, and I knew where I wanted to go. I wanted to go to Cane Creek. You know, Cane Creek is a known place. Well, it is on one end. You look back at the record. Cane Creek was, man, there's so many tournaments won in there. But we got out there, and as soon as we got to the river, man, the fog was so thick you could cut it with a knife. So I'm knowing that I know how to just kind of, well, we ain't got GPS now, you know. So I know how to get to Cane Creek, even though just easing along. So I'm going, and you've been in the fog. You know how you do. If you don't know where you're going, you go in circles. But anyway, I wind up, and all of a sudden I'm in some stumps. Well, I can't see no way, so the guy with me, we just start fishing. Start fishing. And honestly, believe it or not, you know, I think me and him both caught a fish, you know, pretty clear, pretty quick. And then Coach Fog finally cleared. And to make a long story short, you know, the day wind on, got cleared up and everything. I wound up with 13 pounds and 5 ounces. And I come in and won the tournament. And man, I mean, this is unbelievable. I think it was what they was paying. They were paying $2,000 for first place. Man, I was so hyped. I mean, you listen, man, you don't want a tournament for $2,000, man. Ooh, this is 1977 now.
What would you say? What would you say for our listeners that what would $2,000 in 77 compare to winning today?
I would have to say probably $30,000-$40,000 probably.
Wow.
I mean, it's because I mean, you know, I mean, like a dollar was a dollar back then. I mean, you know, gas was what 50 cents a gallon or something like that. And now it takes to fill my boat up. I could put $100 in there and won't even still be full.
Yes.
But
That's
but leading on from that, I mean, that's, you know, and like I said, every tournament they had on, you know, on Barnett, you know, I would be in it. I mean and it wasn't, honestly, it wasn't many tournaments that they would have that I didn't place in the money or be pretty close. I mean, I went through a stretch there where if I didn't win the tournament, I would be in the top 5. I mean, it's just one of them KVDD type deals. You know what I mean? You know, I mean, I tell people, like, you're in that zone. I mean, it's just something you make a decision, it works out, you're so confident or whatever. I don't know, but you just in that zone. I mean, when you suit up, you're just about going to win. I mean, a place.
What does that feel like to be in that zone? I mean, it's so rare, and quite often I'll talk to people, and I mean, they can't put their finger on what it is.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
does it just feel like you're shooting lightning bolts out of your hand? Like what would you
No,
compare it to?
it's something. It's some kind of inner instinct or whatever, or just mindset. I would say, I guess mindset would be the whole deal. It's just like, I go out there. You go out there. Just put it like that. You go out there and look at your reel, and your reel is not acting right. You can look at it and tell exactly right off what's wrong. And it's just like when I got on the water. I mean, I knew. I mean, I'm going to Cane Creek. I'm going to Horseshoe. I'm going to Clearwater Wood. And then when I got there, I mean, I just knew the fish would be there. I mean, it again, confidence. It's just confidence in your ability, and I don't know. You're not overconfident, but you just knew you're gonna do it.
Makes a lot of sense. So then you make the 1983 Bassmaster Classic, and then you said in your speech that's when everything changed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, at that time, through the federation, your club, and just to get to that point, our club, the little club. We had an all black club. Well, we had two white guys in our club. Um, Real good guys, but they were brothers. They were both of them brothers. And so I had to get our club to agree, because if your club wasn't 100% participation in bass, then your club you couldn't fish the federation. So I got everybody to sign up, and two guys were kind of reluctant. I said, well, if you needed me to do something for you, I would do it. And they went on and sent their $30 in to join bass, and so we was able to. Our club became a part of the federation, and we had, and just so happened that the state tournament, we had state tournament, and I made state team. And they would take the top 15 individuals, become the Mississippi team to fish against the other teams, and then we had the after that we had the divisional tournament was held on Ross Barnett, the Bass divisional tournament, and obviously the top man from that divisional tournament would go to the classic. But your club had to be the top club, and you had to be the top man on your club. And and obviously that happened with me, and just being qualified to go to the classic, things begin to happen, because I mean you classic qualified, and classic you qualified in April, and the classic itself was going to be in August. And man, they begin to send me stuff every day. Sunday dropping something off at the house, and this, that, and other, and getting calls from. At that time, it wasn't pure fishing; it was Berkeley Outdoors, Strand. Everybody, all the lure companies that was calling and sending you stuff. They wasn't sending you a whole lot of money, but they were sending you product. And it was I got a matter of fact, I got a check from Berkeley. They sent me a check for $200, and that was big money. That was still pretty big money. And then the go. It was just knowing that you going to the classic. This is the classic that you've heard about over and over again. People, because they've had classics on the reservoir. That I
Yeah.
think Rick Clun won a classic here, and Bobby Murray won a classic here. And then I'm going to be an individual going to represent the state, black man from the state of Mississippi, going to the Bassmaster Classic, and that just, I mean, it was happening. It was happening so fast, because just one thing right after another, and then we goes to the Classic, get there in Cincinnati, we get at the airport, and at the airport and all the different ones from around coming through Jackson, catching the plane, and you and your wife, y'all on the plane, off to Cincinnati, Ohio. I mean, I'm part of this now. I'm in well, you want to say I'm in the clique. I'm a part. I'm in it. So it was just it was awesome. And then goes you get to the Classic, and it's you know how it is because it's a whole bunch of stuff. They're telling y'all whole bunch of stuff, and then they finally take you out and said, okay, this is the boat you're going to use, for the week, and you stand up to it, and the guy come and explain all the little gadgets on there, and different stuff, and tell you how to do this, that, and other. Because all I'd ever ran was just a motor in a boat, just a legal motor in a boat. We got the depth finders, all the little depth finders on there and everything. And it said, this is your boat for the week. And you say, you don't have to do nothing to it but get in and go. And they gassed it up for you and did the whole 9 yards. And coach, just quick saying is, the first day of the Classic, the main thing I'd want to do the first day of that first day that how they used to lead off Ray and Forrest would get out and lead the pack out and and all that, man. Can you imagine? Man, it was just chilled. I mean, ooh. I said, I'm a part of this. I am in this. I am in this thing. And coach, you get to fish. Well, first day you fishing, the main thing you want to do, you didn't want to be one of them guys that zeroed. Oh Lord, it hurt. That's the only thing I could think about was make sure I don't zero. And honestly, Dave, I guess I made I don't know, first stop I did down there. It was about a 15, 20-mile run. It was a good little ways down there. And I made the stop, and I guess on the third or fourth cast, I caught one about two something. But it was right at 2 pounds, right at 2 pounds. And I said, man, all I could say was all the time when I got finished boat, I'm not going zero. I'm not going zero. And I don't know if I caught another fish that day or not. I didn't catch many. I don't think I had but 3 or 4 fish for the weight that I had. And I know the last, the lunker of the tournament. The lunker of the tournament was a 2 pound, 8 ounce bass. And I had a 2 pound, 7 ounce bass. That's the fish that I caught. Yeah. And old boy from Federation guy from Georgia, Roger Farmer, he caught the 2.8 and I had a 2.7. And so, I mean, and then it goes, like I said, then you get in and of course, when the tournament is over, you finish in 10th place. And I mean, it's again, you was in 10th place. I mean, 42 of the best fishermen around, the Hank Parker, the Jimmy Houston, the Rick Cluns, others that I can't think of right now. And you'd have beat all of these guys. I mean, can you imagine how I felt? I mean, you didn't beat these guys.
That must have. I mean, if you weren't confident going into that, you're confident leaving that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, and like I said, after that, I mean, it was nonstop. I mean, I told my wife, I said, I got to be a part of this. I got to be a part of this. And that's what I told her. I mean, and even we was at cause like I said, we had one of the dinners or whatever. We was either at one of the banquets or whatever. I told my wife, I told her, I said, look, I want to be a part of this. And that kind of gave me a little push, motivation to really try to pursue it. And I considered, several times just going on try to chase it. But at that time, because I had already put 15, 16 years on a job that I mean really paid really, really well for down south, and the black man have that kind of a job down south at that time now. At that time.
Was that at the post office?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Okay.
So they was, because they told me if you was making $1.50 an hour, you was making big money down here then. and I was making $3.50 an hour. So it was, obviously that kind of, and I had my child and my wife and everything, and it was, and it wasn't like it is now, guy, on the trail now fishing now, it's a full-time deal now. Back then, 90% of the guys that fished tournaments, they had jobs and work responsibility. We go and fish the tournament. BAS today, 6 tournaments a season.
Yeah.
We would go and fish the tournament, and next week we go back to work. Then whenever the next tournament come up, we show up and fish out. So I mean, I thought hard about it, and I decided to stay with my job and just continue fishing. And then first after I left the Classic now, and Forrest had agreed to sponsor me with a boat and everything, and he sponsored a boat, and I had to get an engine because at that time OMC Johnson Outboards, they was on, and my local dealer, he called them and said, well, yeah, we'll be happy to furnish a motor for it. So that just kind of tied in, and again, my first regular BASS tournament was just north of where we was up there where we was the other day, is at the Springfield, and at Truman Lake. That was my first BASS regular tournament, and I stopped where we was and got licensed going through, and that's the first stop at Bass Pro Shop. We was up the other night, and it just, and I was just so enthused, and I would fish one tournament a year because I wasn't getting nobody paying my entry fee at that time. So I would fish one tournament a season, just take me a week off and pay my entry fee and fish that one tournament. And then in 1988, I talked to Mr. Wood again and told him, that I was interested in fishing the whole circuit. And he said, sure. So we'll be, he said, I just exactly what he said, we'll be glad to sponsor you in that. And they started picking up my entry fee, in the BASS tournament. And I fished, on, just a regular circuit. And then they come out with the top 100 club. And I was, they just, all they did when they started was to take the top 100 point people at that time, and they would be invited to fish the top 100. And I think I was 50 something. I was in the top 100. Let's put it like that. We definitely was in the top 100. And again, I just told Ranger, and Ranger said, "Yeah, sure, we'll take it." And they paid my entry fee in the top 100 club, and I did. I fished those all the way up until I fished with under Ranger all the way till 80. I fished them under Ranger for until 2006 and 2007. Mm-hmm. And then that's when, FLW came in, and they came in with this big deal. And because Bass, they had changed up the way they was doing their tournaments. Yep. And so I was on the lake one day, and I got a call. I got a call from FLW, and that's when they informed me they was looking for a team member to be on one of the FLW teams, and they said my name was picked to be on one of the team, and of course my first team I was on was Tyson Foods, and that worked out pretty good, fishing FLW, and then because once Tyson got out of it, we was picked up by BP, and I was under the BP logo for a couple 3 years, and that, like I said, that was pretty big. And then, of course, in 2008 or 9, the economy got so bad I couldn't sell my boats. I mean, I had 3 boats out there, and I couldn't sell neither one of them. And then, you just get to the point where you say, well, I don't know what to do. And then, of course, you just can't keep, Ranger would keep issuing me a boat, but it wouldn't. I couldn't get a motor to go on them. And so I decided I would just let it go, for at that. I mean, I was still fishing tournaments, but I couldn't fish the FLW Tour then.
Gotcha.
without being on a official team.
When you made that first decision to really pursue this, I mean, I know people today that tell their family and friends that I'm going to be a pro fisherman, and they tell them they're crazy.
Yeah,
I could only imagine how you had to have a bunch of people tell you were out of your mind.
exactly, exactly. I mean, well, they look at you like you're crazy. You're gonna, say especially leave a job, a good paying job, to go try to chase this dream. Um, so that was the decision that I made to stay is because I was just scared that I couldn't, I couldn't compete and take care of my family, So I just and things begin to happen after that. It began to happen. I still was getting some good product sponsors, but product don't pay the bill.
No.
So I mean, I had plenty of line and plenty of lures and worms and stuff like that, but they didn't buy no gas or nothing. So I just I decided I would stay, and I was able, like I said again, I was able to fish, the regular tour for years and years without leaving my job, without leaving.
When did you first become, as I referred to on the weekend, the frog father? When did you and a frog? When
Well,
did that love affair start?
the frog starts from day one. When I said day one, see, 74, 75, about 70, 73, 74, right in that neighborhood. Now I saw somebody try to put this together, the frog, like what we're talking about. It was I saw it in a magazine or a clipping somewhere. Somebody came up with the idea. I mean, and I guess I'm gonna just be honest with you. I think I perfected it and got it out there. And once I saw the little the little green frog I'm talking about with that snag proof had the little legs on it, And I cut them legs, or cut it off close, and figured out how to put that skirt in that frog. And I tore up 5, 6, 7, 8 frogs before I got one to work. And then I began to figure out exactly what I needed to do. And the problem I was having was the collar, the skirt collar that I was using was too big to go in there. So I had to trim the collar down just right to squeeze it into the leg that I put the skirt through. And you just take, this one of the old regular H&H skirt, I want to call them, and just separate it, half on one side, half on the other. Take your little piece of Scotch tape, wrap it around there and keep that side there together, and just cut them legs off, and you stick the Scotch tape side through the frog, through the leg, out to the other one, and you catch it and just pull it up right up against the body of the frog, and then I took a pair of tweezers and just kind of stick it in and just pry it in there, and it just flop right in there. Put a little fishing oil on that fish, fish formula on that or something, and it just slide right in there. And man, I mean, it was just perfect. It was the perfect if you want to see. And the first few times that I went out, I figured out that now I still wasn't 100% certain this frog was going to work. I was using something else dragging across that stuff, and these big bass would blow up on it and get it, because I still ain't 100% certain this frog is gonna work. So I was fishing down there, and I had a guy in the boat with me, and I gave him and we was throwing around there, and I gave him the frog that I had set up, and man, he threw out there, and that big rascal come up and got that frog, Dave, and I mean, he set the hook, and he got the fish in, and I saw them hooks had rolled over, and there was no way this fish was gonna get back. And I got to thinking, okay, that's all right. I mean, I'm catching on worm and stuff like that. And he catches another one. And I better get my frog back, so I took my frog back. So honestly, like I said, I was getting bit on some. I don't know what I was throwing. Oh, I know what I was throwing. I sure was. I was throwing a Johnson spoon. Now I
Yeah.
made some history with a Johnson spoon, but a worm on the back of it. Oh man, I could show you some articles on a black Johnson spoon, and putting just a piece of worm on the back of it, and when it come through the water, it looked like a little snake swimming. And oh boy, what you talking about? Yes, sir. That's it. That's it. And so I had that, and then I took my frog back from him. And to make long story out, we had a good day. But he showed me something with a frog that I already had. And from that time on, I was throwing the frog. I was throwing nothing but a frog. And the frog that they had out then was snag proof, the one I perfected in making it up. And another company, Man Lewis, they trying to start making one. This looked just like it, really, really, but it wasn't. It wasn't like the snag. It wasn't snag. It wasn't snag proof. And just as time, as time went on, the frog began to get more and more play for me. I mean, nobody else was fishing the frog now. I mean, they just wouldn't fool with the frog. I mean, these first few years, this in the early mid-70s and that they wouldn't fool with the frog. And I mean, I still limited, because we were getting so many bites on worms. And then you still was skeptical about throwing it in places that you feel that you couldn't get a fish out if you hung up. And you throw it around them stumps and get hung up. Well, if you hang that thing in one of them logs down there, and these logs ain't rotting now, you're not going to get it back. I mean, you break your line off, but you're not going to get your frog back, and you can't get your boat to it, so you can't get your frog back. So that's why I was throwing, worms and stuff like that in that stuff. But when the frog really, really, really took off was, honestly, for me, it was 78 or 79. I mean, and this frog in that Johnson, silver minnow, and a worm. That's all. I didn't throw crankbaits. Very few spinnerbaits that I would throw back then. But those baits, that Johnson spoon and that frog and a worm was my bait.
You must have lost an incredible amount of fish on it. I just think like fishing a frog without braided line. I mean, it was all mono at the time, correct?
Well, yeah, you would miss. You would miss. I say you would miss a lot of fish, lose a lot of fish, break a lot of fish off. But again, uh, you lose 4 or 5 fish, but you've had 25, 30 bites.
Yeah.
So I mean, you would just literally get ate up with frog because you're throwing what nobody else is throwing. I guess my success on Barnett and it would be is because where I was fishing. Again, nobody would fish the place that I would fish or get their boat to a place where I would put my boat. When I say that, I wasn't dogging it out or anything like that. But I had to get, okay, so I want to get a place, we'll say Clearwater Woods, and this is one place, that's where I won my first tournament at. But it was, I don't know how, and you've seen it if you travel around, it's just like a swamp.
Yeah.
Old dead standing timber, obviously rotted off and everything all back then. And I would have to pick my way through it. And I took marking tape, oil marking tape, the fluorescent tape and stuff. And I have took it and actually marked me a trail to follow and know where I need to turn the boat this way and take that and push it. Trolling motor wouldn't do you no good. Now you using a push boat. And then again, now we ain't in the boat that we're in now. We're in a Ranger TR10, Terry Bass or whatever you want to call them, little narrow looking boats, And I would literally push my boat to get in areas that you would see these fish and you don't want to hardly see them or they don't show themselves no more. You sitting in here and you look and all of a sudden one pushes the water and the water just stands up back in there. He's getting ready to trying to spawn or whatever, And man, if you get back there and throw that bait in there, you're gonna get bit. I can assure you that you're gonna get bit. But I didn't have to worry about anybody coming in on me. I mean, you're not gonna run up there and just start fishing. They fished out of the edge, but places I was, nah, you can forget that.
Why is that? They just weren't willing to put the work in?
Well, it's that, and a lot of guys that think they're gonna stretch their boat. I mean, you fish a lot of weekenders then. I mean, I always was weekenders, but they was out there more for show than anything else. But in the work part, and it was a lot of work. Now, I mean, and it was really, really a lot of work. And when I would draw, because all the tournaments when they draw tournaments, and I would draw a guy, and the first thing I'd tell him is, I said, look, and I said, you need some good strong line, and and a good rod, and that's all I would tell him. I said, you need some strong line, and a guy, they were sure with 10-pound, 12-pound test, 14-pound test. I'm gonna tell you one story. I had this guy when I cashed my first check. I told you about that earlier. When I cashed my first check, a guy from Monroe, and this guy, he was a little bit, yeah. Well, he's one of them guys that you kind of felt that I don't want to be in the boat with you. We just put it like that. But he had fished with a guy that worked at the mechanic from my dealership where I bought my boat from. He fished with him. He said, well, now, Lance told me to tell you that y'all need to go. We need to go so and so, so and so. I said, well, no, we're not gonna go down there. You fishing with me. We're gonna go where we want to go. And I told him, I said, you're gonna need some good strong line and a good rod. And I had this little hole, and I pushed that boat up in there. And like I said, it's all yours. I mean, you ain't got to worry about it coming in on you.
Yeah.
And Dave, I began to put them in the boat. I mean, in the peak of the spawn, this is in April. I mean, there's tons of fish and all that stuff, and nobody bothered. So we got out there, and I caught a couple, right off. And I think he caught one or something, just a keeper, just a 12-incher, And as the day went on, I wound up catching 19 something that day, but he hooked into 2 or 3 fish. And I mean, he loaded up on them, and then all of a sudden, his line broke. And after he lost the third big fish that he had on, he sat down in the boat. He said, now you told me that I needed some bigger line. And he said, no, I didn't listen to you. And that's what he just said. And he said, you told me. And he goes, I think he caught 4 or 5 fish, not enough. He was from Monroe, Louisiana. He didn't do no good, but like I said, I had 19, almost 20 pounds that day, and like I said, that because the first day I only caught 1 fish listening to Doc talk, and then the second day I caught that fish, and like I said, that's where I finished. Out of 180 80 contestants or something, I think I finished 18th or something, 17, 18. But again, like I said, I'm fishing places where nobody else would fish.
What pound test were you when you said good strong line? What
20,
good strong?
20, 25. It was all it was monofilament. Then there was no braid. But everybody would show up. They call big line or heavy line. They call 12-pound test heavy line.
Yeah.
There was so many people show up with 10, 12. And then I'm serious because I wouldn't even throw nothing less than 20-pound test. 20 and 25 is what I use all the time. 20, 25-pound test. Up until I started using braid and different situations, you could change up. But where I was fishing, yeah, you better have to. 20 was the going thing, 20, because it was big enough to horse them out or get them out. And if you hung it up, like a worm or something, you just, tighten, put your hand on the spool and pull it, and you'll break it off at the hook.
What you said until they brought up braid. What was it like when you first experienced braided line? Because I gotta imagine from what you've been dealing with all those years, it was like a magic potion all of a sudden.
Exactly. No, so the first braid I threw was 80-pound test, and I wasn't sure how it was going to work or what I was going to do with it until I got it out there and got some blow ups way back now. I don't know, you on Ross Barnett, we got them great big old elephant ear lily pads and stems and whatever. And I mean, I made a cast, and this big fish blew up on it, and I laid into him, and all I could feel that fish surging on that bait. And all I was doing just applying pressure to them and dragging them out of there and dragging them over and all that stuff. And I pull them out of lily pads, grass, and everything. And then I knew right then that that's what I needed. Because I wasn't sure that I could cast the line and all, but it cast it really well. And I guess, and then once I saw that I could horse these fish out, then I went to braid on. And still, and even right now, the only thing I fish braid on is a frog. And anytime I'm fishing vegetation, like hydrilla or stuff like that, flipping and pitching in hydrilla, fishing, mats and stuff, that's the only time I use is braid. I use monofilament on just topwater baits, crankbaits, and all that stuff. I just monofilament on that. Only thing I use braid on is we're just in the grass.
So you don't do fluorocarbon? You're all
No,
mono?
I cannot stand fluorocarbon. Ooh, that it breaks me down something terrible. I just do not like fluorocarbon. It's good line and everything, but if you don't do everything right on it, when you set the hook, it's gonna break. I mean, I told Mark the other day when I talked with him, I said, I don't need no more. I don't need no. I don't need no fluorocarbon. I just don't use it. I just don't use it. And the only time because when I was on the the VP team, we was up at Detroit there fishing, like St. Clair. I was using 10-pound test fluorocarbon. Mm-hmm. And I was using it on 7.5 foot heavy action with heavy flipping stick. And I throw that thing way out there and had the drag set just right and them big old smallmouth looking. And that's the only time that I used, fluorocarbon. Really use it, But at home, no.
So one of my favorite things that we don't get to experience anymore, that you've already alluded to, is draw tournaments. The fact that you're competing against the person that's standing beside you, that obviously makes some great memories, some bad memories, some all over the place. What is your most memorable draw?
My most memorable draw. Individually, like I said, I drew people with a name. I drew Danny Breyer. I drew Harold Allen. I drew Jim Bitter. I drew Larry Nixon's brother. He ain't important no more, Donnie. But he was, like I said that because he was just a nice guy. Me and him really hit off. Honestly, Dave, because I draw a lot of lesser name fishermen at that time. But one thing that sticks out more than anything else was we drew out at Raven there. We had a tournament at Sam, and they had to draw. And this is before cell phone. You got no cell phones and all this kind of mess. And the guy, you supposed to get with your guy before you leave. And I'm waiting around there, and this guy never shows up and everything. So I hooks up and going back to the room. So he called, and I ain't gonna call his name, but he got a little stuff going now. But he called me and says, I missed you at the thing, blah blah, So he said, what do you want to do tomorrow? And I said, well, I like to use my boat, you like to use your boat. So now, how we gonna flip the coin now? You in one place and I'm in another. How we gonna flip the coin to see what boat we're gonna use? And this was all part of his game. You see what I'm saying? He said, well, what we do is just we show up down in the morning. We'll see who boat we use. But anyway, so he said, well, we'll show up down there and bring our boats. Now, who wants to pull a boat down in the middle of the night not knowing if you will even use the boat? So I said, well, now I tell you what, he swore up and down he had caught a 10-pounder. I said, well, okay, look, man, I just go with you. I just meet you down there in the morning. Then I found out that was all part of the game. That's what it would do it, for that. And like I said, and then after that, matter of fact, he and I was on a snag-proof team together. You might be able to figure him out. And if I tell you that at that time, it was on a snag-proof team. But we, he did all right. We went out there and we went to supposedly where he caught this fish. Neither one of us caught anything. I don't think I caught none. I don't think he caught none on Sam Raven Reservoir. But draw tournaments. I mean, I drew over the years when I, obviously first started fishing BASS. I wanted to learn, and if I thought a guy that been out there longer than I have and kind of proved himself in somewhat, even boat operation, running the boat, blah blah, whatever, just shooting stuff, I would agree to go with it. Just to learn. And honestly, I learned so much from just watching these
Yeah.
guys, how they run the lake. A lot of places where you could get in and where you need to cut off and different stuff like that. And I was able to use that experience later on and on Raven. Like I said, I've had some tremendous, success on Raven over the years. I mean, I have really, I even I won a big FLW tournament there. I've had several BASS tournaments, top 10 finishes there. You've had a lot of success on Sam Raven, just by me learning from the guy that I fished with over the years there, and showing me different stuff and telling me different stuff about the lake. And one guy, he's been deceased for years, David Warden. I fished with David Warden. Matter of fact, my first trip to Sam Raven Reservoir, I never seen it, didn't have a map of it, and I called this place, and David Warden was a guide at this place. And he told me what to look out for and what to do and everything. And then when I finally got there, I just happened to stop at this store, and he just happened to be there that day. And he again, like I said, he was regular tour and pro at that time on BAS there. And I talked to him, and he told me, he said, now a lot of stuff you on this map. He said, that stuff ain't out there no more. So you can't say this map has got a bunch of trees here. They was there, but they ain't there no more. But and he just told me then, man, and I don't know, we didn't draw out that year. We drew out a year later, and man, he showed me some stuff. He showed me some stuff that honestly that I used for years and years after that. Just learning from him.
Yeah, the learning curve back then must have been. I mean, you look at all the video and everything everybody can get now, and people say the learning curves, but back then you're actually physically fishing beside
Yeah.
somebody, and they can't hide anything from you.
No. Like I said, I used to tell them all the time. I said, well, if you go to your fish, you got to take me with you. I said, that's for sure. So I mean, you can't say, well, I got some fish located now, not go because I'm with you now. But if you gonna catch them, you got to go to them.
if if you had the ability to go back in time and give yourself now as a Bass Fishing Hall of Famer, if you could go back and give that young man a bit of advice before you walk into that very first tournament meeting, and not just for the meeting, but for the rest of your career, now that you've lived this life, what would that advice be?
Be confident in yourself and your ability. What you learn. Just be confident in your ability, and do not listen to doc. I'll talk. Doc talk over at the doc. They always catch them.
That's one problem that never changes. Like, that's the number one rookie problem. At the end of the rookie season, they say, "Oh, I shouldn't have listened to Doc talk." I mean, it's hard to avoid it.
Well, because it sounds so good.
That's the truth. Well, I know we have met each other before. We did a Bass Live when I was when I was at
Ross.
Ross. And I'll say one thing: one of the greatest gifts this past week at the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame gave me and many other people is an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And man, what you've done for this sport, what you've given this sport, a very worthy Hall of Famer. And all I have to say is just thank you for being who you are.
All right. I appreciate that. And I've enjoyed every minute of it.
Well, next time I'm down your neck of the woods, we're gonna go frog fishing.
We sure can. I'd be happy to take you. Like I said, they biting right now. I got a little tournament coming up. Well, I got a 2-day tournament coming up this weekend. And I'm gonna go and check some stuff out tomorrow or the next day. And hopefully they'll be there Saturday and Sunday morning.
All right. Well, hey, go win that, because it would make this podcast so much cooler if we could say
Well,
he won right after.
we'll sure let you know. That's for sure.
Thank you very much, Alfred.
Dave, I enjoy doing it.
Thank you, Alfred Williams. Thank you, Jake Latendresse. And thank you guys for listening to this show once again. It was a great show. I hope you have a great week. Remember, go out there and do what you can to help those who have been so badly affected by the hurricane. Choose a direction, make a donation, do what you can to make a difference. Let's come together and help make a horrible situation just a tiny bit better. Have a great week. Enjoy being. And as always, Bob Cobb, take it away.
Thanks for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, because Bob Cobb of the Bassmasters told you to. You hear?